Well, it's a new year, and we got one game under our belt, and ready for the big rivalry this weekend. We've had a couple good days of practice. I think our guys are, you go for so long where you don't practice, then all of a sudden you practice for so long, and I think getting back into a routine of every 3-4 days is going to be good for us, for sure. And in Michigan, they've had a few ups and downs too. Losing the Central and then coming back and playing maybe two of their best games against Maryland and Penn State. They have three guys that have really been playing consistent, and big guy has been pretty steady with averaging 18 points a game. I think Kobe has really taken his game to another level. He's averaging 13 or 14, and I really believe Jet Howard, his son, has played as well as any freshman in this league. He's scoring the ball, he defends the ball, he rebounds the ball. He's done a lot of good things, and so with us, Malik didn't practice yesterday, but practiced today, most of the practice. He's coming. It's just taking a little time, but he's coming. But everybody else is healthy, and we're excited to be ready to go and hopefully play well. Questions?
Now, what have you seen differently about Michigan these last 2 games compared to Central?
It's like everybody else. It's just hard, you watch them against North Carolina, they're one way. You watch them against Kentucky and a trip over there, you don't know how long that has to do with it. I think their point guard, has gotten a little better. They're a little more comfortable with their rotation. I thought the Williams kid played a little better the last 2 games. There's no question about that. Dickinson is a guy that they've always got him as an anchor. He's always a guy that they can throw the ball to. But from earlier in the year, I think Howard keeps elevating his game, and I think, in all honesty, Kobe has elevated his game, and I think those 2 guys have made a difference for them.
You had Monty's had a couple tests very early in the season that he did well against. This is sort of the next, I would say, big one. Are you curious to see how he'll do in sort of you worried all the emotion of the game can also lead to, I don't know, silly fouls or things?
Yeah, with most guys it can. I think Marty's pretty stable. He's over in Mali. I think that Michigan State rivalry just wasn't as important, and so it's gotten to be important to him. But I don't see the emotions of the game doing it. I see the problem is he's a load to cover in there, and we've got to do it by committee and in different ways. And in some years we've just played one way, and some years we've played other ways. And I think it's up to our staff. We got to do a better job of mixing some things up and not putting everything on Monty. But we'll be throwing all 3 guys at him. But as always, when you play a team, the Baker kid, back to your question, has played a little better in the last 2 games too. I think he was 3 for 6 from the 3 last night, and so if you start doubling down and do all those things that everybody wants you to do, sometimes 2-pointers don't beat you as much as 3-pointers do. So we have to play it with a balanced attack defensively, and I think Marty he's really come on. I mean, his defense has gotten better and better running the court. We've got to put him in a position where he can be successful, and that won't be just sit him on the block and let him throw it into him and defend him. We got to move him around a little bit.
Wondering about Jackson. Obviously had a strong offensive game, had some defensive deficiencies in that one as well. What have you seen on that side, on the defensive side, in terms of maybe the beginning of the year to now? How much do you feel like he's grown?
He's grown a lot. I mean, it's funny. These kids, they think it's all going to come. You start looking at some of these players at some of these schools and top 20 players, which some people are thinking are all pros. There's a lot of guys on teams around the country right now playing 10 minutes, 7 minutes a game. And it's so distorted, and the media distorts it. Sometimes the schools distort it with their social media, influx. We got to make sure everybody thinks everybody's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and sometimes parents and players do. But in his case, I think he figured out before Christmas there is a process to this, and I think he came back with just a different mindset, and he has been better, and he's growing defensively. And some of that is, you play a U-ball, it's illegal to guard somebody. I mean, they have rules in there. Do not guard anybody. And so we have to, kind of retrain guys that play in all these tournaments sometimes, and it's been different for him. But I really have enjoyed the progress he's made, and I think Carson has made some progress. So we'll be throwing a lot of different guys at him. Who knows? But still a very good player that we're going to have to deal with.
You've been in this rivalry forever now, and a lot of different iterations of it.
Been through them all.
And really the last, maybe 10, 12 years, has been a lot of back and forth. And I'm wondering when you've had that, is there less pressure on any individual game than there used to be in terms of feeling like the rivalry, than there would have been when you began or when you were really, were trying to, the early stages?
It was a weird rivalry. I mean, early on, we couldn't win a game. And they went a pretty long stretch where they couldn't win a game. And then, it's been a little bit more balanced. But, the way the conference schedule's gone, and when we went from 16 to 18, 18 to 20, and you'd only play certain teams once. For a while, we only played Michigan once. And so a lot of things have changed in this thing. The rivalry's the same, and that's what I used to tell John Beeline. I mean, the rivalry is why there's Michigan State or Duke Carolina, or Ohio State Michigan. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast, and it's usually respected, not always, but usually it's respected. And I think for us, winning the Battle of the State means the world to me. I grew up in this state. I recruited a ton of kids from this state, and I still live in this state, so it'll always mean something as long as I'm here. You get so many kids now. I was watching the game last night. I think Illinois has one kid from Chicago. I went, wow. It's a little different in that respect, and the transfer portal and everything has changed some of that. But like I told our freshmen today, if you don't understand the rivalry, read up on it and learn it by tomorrow. And then if you don't by then, I'm not playing you on Saturday, so you better be ready for what the rivalry means to 90% of us. And the kids that haven't grown up in this state, they've got to learn it, but they better learn it fast.
Tom, after Nebraska, you talked about turnovers being a point of emphasis this year, and that was a goal for you guys. And Michigan was one of the best teams in the country at not turning the ball over. How do you win the turnover battle on Saturday?
Play better defense and not give them the ball. I mean, it's pretty basic. I mean, them feeding the post is a positive from their standpoint, because most of us have to work around to get the ball in the post. They can just throw it up. That's the advantage of a 7-1 kid in there who's good. So I don't think they turn it over much feeding the post, where a lot of us do, but we have to be more selective in what we're doing. And we have to make sure on the break, like in the last couple games, we would have been under 10, under 9. But we had one game, we had 4 offensive fouls, a charge, bad screens, those all count as turnovers, and 1 shot clock. So I think we have in general taken care of the ball a lot better. They are very good. I think they had 3 or 4 last night. That's always part of the game, man. I mean, we're getting 60-some shots up. We're a better team than we're getting 50-some shots up.
Tom, with Malik, the guy who's been around so much, you don't have to worry about certain things with him. Does it help that he's able to do that, kind of take one practice off, practice one, and
there's nothing good about that, not one thing.
But I mean, in terms of a guy who can,
of all the guys that could do it or has to do it, I'd say him or Joey would be number 1 on my team. But I talked to him, I talked to our trainer, I talked to our doctors. It's a tough deal now for coaches, you know, because you want to make sure the player's healthy. We almost have so much information. You know, I said it before when Judd Heathcote was here, he had both his knees operated on, you know, and guy complained about his knee, and he said, take a look at my knees. Well, they were square and boxed, you know, and he'd shake it off. He said, that's a bad knee. Now you got, you know, ACL, MCL, TCL, DCL, you know, you got so many CLs that I don't even know what's coming. And guys get caught up in that, and it's good, but there's just so many things to worry about that I think guys, it takes them longer to come back. But at the same time, what I was trying to say is, if you don't come back, you're never going to be as good unless you're practicing every day. You know, like, you know, maybe Michael Jordan could do it or somebody like that, but 90% of the people can't, and they still could be effective. Malik Hall couldn't play for a week. If I played him, he'd be effective because of his experience and all the things, but I'm saying max out on him being as good as he can be. So he's trying to get, you know, more time in. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no problems. What there is I think I said this before, but, you know, if you don't do something for a month or 6 weeks or 45 days and all of a sudden you start doing it, you know, some of you guys would have trouble brushing your teeth. You know, your arm would be sore. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny. And so that's what happens in this. And as I keep telling them, until you do it every day, you're not going to be as smooth. And that's what he's got to really work on. And the only way he can do it is to practice every day. The only way he's going to do that is if he's feeling real good. So, yeah, he can take a day off and not be killed, but not when you had 40 days off. You know, that makes it a little harder, to be very honest with you, and that's the problem. Now we got that part of working him back into the program. You know, like everybody said, we got everybody back. Well, we got everybody back, but everybody else has to feel comfortable, and he has to feel comfortable. But it's coming. We're definitely way better off than we were a couple weeks ago.
I'm wondering with Joey, I mean, you're starting to see more consistency on the boards, scoring's there, shooting's there, but particularly with the ball moves we saw the other night in the last couple games, his assist numbers have continually gone up. I mean,
Yeah.
What level is he playing at right now? How much more of a ceiling does he have?
I think he has more of a ceiling, but I think what's helped him, he's in the best shape of his life. I mean, last year he was like an old man out there, you know, and he would be stiff, and he's never that way. He's really done an unbelievable job taking care of his body, rest, rehab, all the things, you know, that you hear LeBron does and that. I mean, Joey does, yoga and this and that. And God bless him, because it's really been good for him. And then I think his confidence level is high, but he was always a very good passer. I mean, he might be one of the best, you know, him and AJ are the best passers on my team. And there's no question Joey moves the ball, and because at being 6'8" or 9, he can see over people. And, you know, he's rebounding the ball better, you know. And I think the last step is, you know, continue to guard people, especially when a lot of the guys we got now are those hybrid fours, and he's got to guard them. That'll be his final step. But I think he's playing at a high level, and yet I don't think he's reached the ceiling. How's that?
Got time for a couple more before the players, if you got them?
Tom, you're not really back. I know you're not really on social media, but how do you think maybe that has changed what this rivalry has become over the last couple of years?
Well, you know how I feel about the social media, and if you don't, as much dislike as I have for it, I like it less every day. You know, I mean, I just think it creates problem. You know, Warriors do things on the court or in the Coliseum, and the social media just gives people a chance to banter, and you know, some of it you guys could think is cool and funny. I don't. So I don't know what it's done to the rivalry. I really doesn't faze me either way, because number one, I'm not on it. Number two, I don't put any validity into it. But probably from the fans and the reporters and everybody else, probably helps. Social media probably helps everybody, you know, in the way they look at things. But from a coaching standpoint, I've never put anything into it. Hasn't changed and probably won't change until I'm sayonara.
I'm going off that, I guess, a little bit. I'm just wondering, what do you sort of think or expect in terms of atmosphere? You know, when you look at this game being the first time these two schools have played each other since the football game, everything that's happened since then, there's been things done and said. the fan bases and what, I'm just wondering what you sort of hope or expect in terms of
I
environment.
tell you what I expect and what I hope. I hope we're the craziest, toughest, best crowd that ever was assembled in Breslin, with class, with respect, and handling ourselves the way we should. And that's the way I'm going to play this game. That's why I'm going to handle this game. It's good, you know. It's good that the rivalries have something to be rivals about. But you know, there's a lot of things that have changed. You know, the rivalry has changed because, you know, we had a couple of years of COVID, and you know, you're playing in front of nobody. All those things they get rekindled, and you know, the football game was, you know, was whatever happens happens. But do I think it's going to be ugly in that? It better not be. And I'll say that to every Michigan State fan. It better not be. Because on this side of the state, it better be done with cheer for us, respect for us, respect for your opponent, and let's play the game. Is there going to be any love? Hell no. But I've said that for 20 years, and you guys don't understand it. There won't be any the other way. Will there be respect? From this side, there will be. And that's the way I want our fans to handle it. But I want them to spend a lot more time cheering for Michigan State than worrying about anybody from the other school. Not fair?
All set, guys?
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
So,
You guys did a good job, too, because I know you're biting your tongue.